You ever wonder how some people just click? How a total stranger can go on to become one of your closest friends and what feels like no time at all? Well, it's not magic. Turns out it's actually a process. And in this explainer, we're going to break down the science of how we build those really powerful human connections.
So, what's the secret sauce, right? What takes us on that incredible journey from seeing someone as just another face in the crowd to them becoming, well, an essential part of our lives? That is the big question we're tackling today.
All right, so let's get right into it. The very first step on this whole journey is understanding this really crucial shift, and that's moving from impersonal to interpersonal communication. So impersonal is when you're just interacting with someone based on their role, like asking the lab monitor, hey, where's the stapler, or ordering a coffee. But interpersonal, that's when you start to connect with them as a unique person, not just a function. And let me tell you, getting this shift down, that's the key that unlocks the door to any real connection.
But, before we can even have that first real conversation, something has to pull us toward a person in the first place. So what are those invisible forces at play? Let's dig into what really sparks a connection. So it turns out there are basically 5 major ingredients in the chemistry of attraction. We've got similarity, physical and sexual attraction, just plain old proximity, and even how our differences can actually complement each other. Let's break each one down real quick.
First up, we've got similarity. And this one's pretty intuitive, right? We're naturally drawn to people who are like us. If you both love hiking and you both care about the environment, boom, you've instantly got common ground to build on. It's just a super easy starting point for a conversation. Okay, next, let's talk about physical and sexual attraction. Now, these are definitely related, but they're not exactly the same thing. Physical attraction is, being drawn to someone's appearance. You like their smile, their style. Sexual attraction, well, that's that next level, the desire for intimacy. Both are for sure really powerful sparks at the beginning.
Then we have proximity. And this one is so simple, but it is incredibly powerful. Think about it. You can't connect with someone you never ever meet. So whether it's your neighbor, the person you sit next to in class, or even just a teammate in a group chat, just being physically or digitally close creates that all-important opportunity for something to start.
And last but not least, complementary. You know the old saying, opposites attract? Well, this is kind of like that, but with a little twist. It works best when two people's different strengths really balance each other out. So imagine this. You're super detail-oriented and your project partner is a huge big-picture thinker. Together, you're an absolute powerhouse. Your differences literally make you stronger. Okay, so the spark is there. You're attracted to someone for one of those reasons. But there's still kind of a mystery, right? So the next stage of this journey is all about gathering information and turning that initial mystery into something with real meaning.
And we do this by trying to reduce our uncertainty about them. And we've got 3 main ways of doing this. So let's say you have a new teammate, Jordan. You could try the passive strategy. Just kind of watch them from a distance in meetings, see how they operate. Or you could get a little more, active and ask a friend you both know for some info. But honestly, the most effective strategy is almost always the interactive one. Just go talk to them directly.
And that brings us to the real engine of building a relationship. It's the art of sharing. You might have heard it called self-disclosure. This right here is where the real work of connection actually happens.
But here's the thing. Sharing is a really delicate balance. For it to work, you need reciprocity. That means if you share something kind of personal, they meet you at a similar level. That's how trust gets built. On the flip side, you've got to be mindful of what's appropriate. Telling someone your deepest, darkest secrets in the first 5 minutes, that's a classic TMI situation that's probably going to backfire. It is all about the timing. So once you get the hang of that give and take, how can we actually picture what's happening as a bond gets deeper? Well, let's look at 2 classic models that are basically blueprints for how intimacy is built.
First up is something called the social penetration model. And the idea here is actually really simple. Intimacy grows in 2 directions, breadth and depth. So breadth is just the number of different topics you talk about. Work, hobbies, family, goals, whatever. And depth is how personal you get when you talk about those things.
So at the beginning of a relationship, it looks a lot like this. You might touch on a whole bunch of different topics, right? Hobbies, work, family. That gives you that breadth. But look at how thin that ring is. That's because there's no depth yet. All the conversations are happening right on the surface. You're just sharing facts, not really sharing feelings. But in a close friendship, the whole picture changes.
You could be talking about the exact same topics, but now that ring is super thick. That represents depth. Now you're sharing fears and dreams and personal experiences. You've gone way past surface-level facts and into meaningful feelings. And that's where true intimacy is.
Okay, our second blueprint is a really cool one called the Johari Window. This is a fascinating tool that helps us understand our own self-awareness in our relationships. It's all about what's known to us and what's known to other people.
So, it's divided into 4 panes. You've got the open area. This is the stuff everyone knows about you, like your job or your favorite hobbies. Then there's the hidden area. These are your secrets, things you know but others don't, like maybe a fear of public speaking. Then you get the blind spot. These are things others see in you that you might not see yourself, like maybe you have a habit of interrupting people. And finally, the unknown quadrant. This is the potential that neither you nor anyone else has seen, yet.
So what's the whole point of this? Well, the goal is to expand your open window. And you do that by shrinking the others. You shrink the hidden part by sharing things about yourself, that's self-disclosure, and you shrink your blind spots by being open to feedback from people you trust.
And that brings us to a final and I think pretty powerful thought. The Johari Window, it shows us what's known right now, but that unknown area, that's just full of untapped potential. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What part of your unknown self, what hidden talent or amazing capacity is just waiting to be discovered in your very next connection?